Stop typing. This week on the Virtual Skeptics. Bob is not amused as normal. Eve is floating on air, and Barb. Look, we've got Barb. Barb's right here. Awesome, Barb. I'm your host, Brian Gregory, and I've got amazing hat head. Just wanted to let you know.
Can
Hi.
you see it?
No. No, you cannot see it. You can see the hat, but not the hat head. Hi, this is Virtual Skeptics. If you're watching, awesome. Thank you. Let's do this. I'm not alone. I'm going to introduce these guys.
You're always alone.
Well, technically, I am alone, but I'm not virtually alone. So virtually, I'm going to virtually introduce these virtual people, which you can't even prove aren't simulacrum. Bob Blazkowicz, CSI's conspiracy guy, and I'm just going to slur it all deliberately. He's a conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger from Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor. Next up, we have Eve Seabird, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skepticality and Insight without an S at skeptic.com. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm sorry. And look, it's Barb Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to numerous skeptical projects, including Insight without an S at skeptic.com, and The Odds Must Be Crazy. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Brian.
Everyone say hi. So you get your flip on the screen. Hi. So everyone gets to see your smiling faces. So we do a couple things at the beginning of the show every week, and unfortunately Tim's not here to do the skeptic trivia question, which I'm going to talk like this. He's at RiffTrax. Really?
Yeah. RiffTrax and tweeting,
really?
Rubbing it in.
Really? He's at RiffTrax.
Bastard.
Yes.
Fine, I'll just do it. Okay, so we have a trivia question every week, and a few other little details. Eve, do you want to do the trivia question this week?
No, I don't even have it up.
You don't have it? Okay, I will do it. This is how this thing goes. If you post it on the Twitters or on the comments on the YouTube, first you will get an amazing prize. I promise. I am not lying at all. Much. This is the question. On this date in 1983, a famous hoax was exposed. It was exposed, and it was not arrested for it. No. Yeah, famous hoax was exposed on today. This is the 6th of May, 1983. If you know what that hoax is, please post it quickly. I'm waiting. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to sit here and wait. The secondary quiz we do every
The
week.
show does not move until we get a correct answer.
As Bob says. There are two screens behind me. If you can figure out what's on them and let me know in one of those other places I mentioned, that would be also prize-worthy. Although I'm not... I mean, it's going to be an amazing prize, but I'm not going to say that it's actually going to be something you'd like. So, go internets. Go internets and tackle it, because you can do it. Up first this week, Bob chewing with a cat.
Yeah, there's a cat. It happens. All right, so Mina doesn't care. Texas, the land of big hats, big belt buckles, and big government conspiracy theories. I honestly don't know where to begin this week. It's just that depressing. So, a conspiracy theory has been circulating for the last couple of weeks, and it made its way into the news cycle and is currently befouling the corridors of power in Texas. This conspiracy theory is called Jade Helm 15. This theory claims that large military drills, preparedness drills for, I think it's counterinsurgency drills, spanning 7 states in the Southwest, are really a ploy to annex Texas and bring it into the United States, or something. Actually, the idea is that martial law will be imposed on the heels of these war games, and that people who we will call true patriots, will be rounded up and have their guns taken away. Then the massacre takes place. There's enough concern about this, and it started with Alex Jones at InfoWars.
Yeah.
Of course.
And you know, there just comes a point where you just start to despair. That there just isn't enough common sense to even something as ridiculous as this particular conspiracy theory doesn't get turned away out in the cold. Anyway, there was enough concern that Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott, so that's Senator Ted Cruz and Governor Greg Abbott, have addressed this plan publicly. Abbott wrote a letter that I'll link to in the show notes, saying that the Texas State Guard would actually be monitoring the operations. Neither Cruz nor Abbott actually endorses the conspiracy theory outright. Indeed, they both explicitly say that, yeah, this is just a drill. But you really wouldn't get that from looking at the headlines.
Did they specify how were they monitoring? Because that was the thing I was curious about.
Oh, you know what they're going to do? In the letter that the governor sent to the military and released on the website, on the government website, he said that he's going to be getting reports from. He expects reports to come in regularly about the progress of these exercises.
Okay, sounds a lot of hand waving there.
Yeah. I mean, this seems to be fairly routine, and it strikes me as the type of thing that a governor might just be getting anyway, just as a matter of
I know
courtesy.
Wasn't the Texas Guard or militia or something supposed to be keeping tabs on it?
Texas State Guard would be monitoring, but
I don't know what that means.
As far as I could tell, it was just one guy being a liaison. Is what it sounded like. And really minor.
It seems like when national military operates within a state, don't they already pay attention to what's going on?
Well, yeah, they'd have to. And this is the thing: is that the plans have been in the works since at least January, and everybody has been on board and involved. It's taking place in public and private land with contracts from the landowners and the people administrating the land. So, I mean, this is just another one of those things that the Army does sometimes, you know?
That's what they want you to think.
Bob, Sam wants to know why you hate America.
No, just certain people.
Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So,
more Sam.
Anyway, there was a...
Sam's looking at you, Bob.
Mm-hmm. So, over at Newsweek, there was a story that talked about this, and it opened with something that struck me wrong, and for different reasons now than when I originally read it. So it started with the statement, quote, "Most conspiracy theories live and die on the internet, on the ragged fringes of message boards and blogs. Rarely do they migrate to what we perhaps misleadingly call the real world, and rarely do they merit the notice of our leaders." And my thought was balderdash. People need. I honestly think that people need to recognize the ubiquity of conspiratorial thinking. It is absolutely everywhere.
Because the internet is the real world now.
Oh,
This is.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's where a lot of my life is lived, honestly.
I think all of our lives are pretty much on the internet right now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Oh my God!
I have the feeling that we're being
on
filmed.
the internet.
Okay, so, but conspiratorial thought is ubiquitous. A lot of current and recent stories in social issues of no small consequence are influenced heavily by conspiracy narratives. So some of the things that you know, off the top of my head, the Malaysia airliner crash. Most of what comes off of Russian state TV that has wide-ranging geopolitical impact. HIV and AIDS denialism in Africa, which results in actual deaths. Benghazi, which anti-vaccine conspiracy theories and anti-pharma conspiracy theories, like there's a hidden cure for name your disease. There are misconceptions of genetically modified organisms, which will have an effect if it takes off, which will have an effect on that global health and our ability to feed all the people who are on this soggy rock. Climate change. I was actually on a panel with someone 2 weeks ago who told me that it was all a bunch of climate scientists trying to get money for research.
Someone should tell them.
Big climate.
I know.
Because they don't seem to be getting all the money.
I know. Where's that money going to? No. So that's an existential threat. That's something that, in all likelihood, will have profound consequences should the conspiratorial narrative not be crushed. As far as I can tell, all of the political discourse right now surrounding the Second Amendment is saturated by an unsupported conspiracy theory about the president trying to take guns away. There's no evidence for that.
He's had 6, 7 years now. How many guns has he taken away?
Exactly. And then there's...
I mean, if he really want to take guns away, he would just call him the Iron Patriot.
Is that a thing?
Never mind.
So there's also an entire strain of Christianity, a strong, politically active form of Christianity that reads the Bible like a newspaper and believes that the Antichrist is gathering forces around the world and moving them into an end game.
Which I don't even think is in that book.
Yeah, it's like reading the Bible like a newspaper if you're reading it upside down, in the wrong direction, sideways, and while it's on fire.
And only speak languages that have no visual... Never mind. It's bad.
Or they don't actually read the source material, and they read everyone's bizarre interpretations of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really...
They take the Bible literally, except they don't know what that means.
Yeah.
They take the Bible literally when it suits their purposes, and then interpret it.
On top of that...
It really depends on who's telling them what to do.
So, not to be left behind, as it were, the left has its own version of the New World Order. Thank you. New World Order conspiracy theories that focuses on globalization and trade agreements and that sort of thing. The misguided belief that world economies could possibly be determined by a couple of policymakers or corporations. So they are ubiquitous, and they're at the the center part of our political discourse a lot of the time, and there's a reason. It's because they're extremely useful. It's if you want to get people to act, make them scared. Fear is contagious. It's a self-sustaining process, and it's enormously useful. And I think that the press should pay attention to it when you have people who are going so far as to placate conspiracy theorists by devoting government resources to them. You are kind of validating the concern, it seems to me. Right? Or am I wrong about that? That was one question that I kind of wanted to bounce off you guys.
Sorry, I was typing. What?
Yeah, I was too busy trying to count your ubiquity.
My what?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
No,
it's not a conspiracy.
Just repeat it for them. I'm going to agree with you.
That when you pay attention to these things and when you give them lip service and when people in the public eye mention and respond to these things, you give them currency. You legitimize at least the concerns, if not the theory itself. The fear itself is validated.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, though. I mean,
and
it's a balance that we have to strike with just about everything that we talk about and everything that we do. You don't want the Streisand effect. You don't want to give anybody reason to be a martyr, and you don't want to give them credence. You don't want people thinking that these things are worth responding to, even. But at the same time, when you ignore them, sometimes,
Cover up.
yeah. Well, it's more than that. Even when you ignore them, when you don't respond to them, there are all of these people who simply don't have the tools to recognize that or the knowledge to recognize that they're silly or they're wrong. So it's just something. It's just a dance we have to do, and we have to consider the damage of each particular thing each time that it comes up, I think.
What Barb said.
But how much of this is because we now have news outlets that look and feel as legitimate as news outlets should, but yet spout all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking just on TV. I mean, there are websites that are curated as well as news sites, but aren't intelligent with their sources, or they're very good at producing articles
Outrage
that
porn,
look real. Or they're all reactionary opinions, and it's, I mean,
right, and it's so easy to sort of create for yourself a bubble where you only.
Well, that's the other thing, is that you have a lot more opportunities to insulate yourself from the outside world, from opposing opinions, than previous media ecologies, I guess. But the one thing is, like, I don't know that there's a case that conspiracy theories appear faster or spread faster. I'm not sure exactly what kind of studies have been done on that. I was looking for, how many people actually believe this? Did anyone do, like, a poll on whether or not they're worried that a federal government, that the U.S. Army's maneuvers would actually lead to martial law for some reason? And I didn't see any kind of gauge on that, so it was hard to say exactly how fervently are people believing this.
When did this happen? I mean, is this
last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, was it before or after Baltimore?
Oh, that's actually a good point. People under stress, people who feel that they're besieged, are more likely to turn to conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Honestly, when it comes to race in this country, get used to it. Things are going to be changing soon. So you may see that type of hyperbolic reaction, and actually tying it to race. There's something to it. Jade Helm 15 is really only the most recent in a long string of invasion narratives that involve the Southwest. Whether they're UN black helicopters, Al-Qaeda attempting to cross in from filthy Mexico, or Mexican reconquista of the Southwest, or you have immigrants who are bringing plague across the border. All of these kind of invasion and infection narratives, they just seem to have a home on the border. And it's just that now the invader is the federal government, right? So it's a new actor, and these narratives go back to about the 1980s, maybe the late 70s. The only problem is that when you have the disarming of a populace by the federal government in preparation for the establishment of death camps or closed Walmarts, you've moved on to kind of the
gotta have your Xbox.
The canon of right-wing militia lore. And I think the worst possible response to this was what Ted Cruz said. He said...
That's hard to believe.
I know. But he said... The thing is, he didn't say, no, that's ridiculous. You know how, like, John McCain, when he was faced with the idea, when a constituent said, well, Obama is a Muslim, right? And he's like, no, he's not a Muslim, right? Ted Cruz doesn't have the balls to actually say, no, it's not an invasion. What he says is that he understands people's concerns, but, quote, I think part of the reason is we've seen for 6 years a federal government disrespecting the liberty of the citizens. That produces fear when you see a government that's attacking our free speech rights, or Second Amendment rights or religious liberty rights. That produces distrust. And I would say, no, telling people that their free speech rights and Second Amendment rights and religious liberty rights are under attack, that produces distrust, ass.
Yeah.
And so he really...
But it serves his purposes for them to distrust.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And that's why we're always going to have conspiracy theories, because they're useful. It helps us streamline complex stories into comprehensible narratives. Gives us the illusion that we understand something. And they're politically useful. They're easily packageable, and honestly, they propagate themselves with this imperative to wake the sheeple up. So like an evangelical creed, part of the message is to share the message, and somehow the truth will set you free.
Well, and also the idea, and this is so common in many fringe sort of beliefs, the idea of being in the know and having special knowledge.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. There's a what was his name? He wrote A Culture of Conspiracy, and I can't remember his name. I've mentioned him before in the show, but his name's escaping me right now. But he calls it stigmatized knowledge, that there's knowledge that's either been buried, it's been lost, it has been outdated or somehow stigmatized, and it comes roaring back. And it gives you the idea that you're peeking behind the curtain, or that you know some sort of secret that other people should know. The truth is, we're painting over areas of ignorance, with conspiracy theories. We don't understand how, for instance, the military works when they're doing these multi-state drills. It's hard to understand that if you just hear it from a single biased source. It would be scary. There are, and it has a scary name, Jade Helm 15. What does that mean? And I love the Jade Helm thing, because it has...
Is that the next Marvel movie?
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the operation. The U.S. operations, unless they're coined by politicians, operations don't correspond. The names don't correspond to what they're doing, because otherwise it would be a security threat. So Jade Helm is probably just two words out of a hat.
Probably.
Yeah, but people don't realize that, and they think it has a deeper meaning. So I got
a question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Eve.
Michael Barkun.
Michael Barkun, that's right. And that's an excellent book, Culture of Conspiracy. It should be required reading. You should read it to orphans at Christmas.
So I got a quick question. Bob, do you think that there is a informal conspiracy of ignorance in this country to perpetuate propaganda and crazy thinking and fearful thinking and non-scientific, non-rational thinking?
No, I honestly think that
would you consider that a conspiracy? Because people...
I don't think it's coordinated. I think that there are a lot of people...
I think there are some that are coordinated.
I think, if you're talking about something like the Heartland Institute and their approach to, say, global warming, they're pretty open about what they're doing. And Fox News, it's a propaganda wing. If you can't see that, there's already something wrong. I have a hard time seeing that somehow people are able to manipulate public opinion so thoroughly with such foresight for some sort of end game that will, for instance, keep Republicans getting elected somehow.
You know what, though? If you and I hate to say that this is a right-wing phenomenon, but I honestly believe that it is. If you look up, some of those really goofy things that you can eat quickly, Snopes, and Snopes jumps on like in a day, that seem to propagate very, very quickly. If you Google those things, my mother used to send them to me often because she had a friend that subscribed to one of those, right-wing forums that had crazy conspiracy stuff in it. And I would look them up, and where I would, I tried to find the source of these things because they seemed completely made up. And what I would find is these things would be posted on hundreds of different forums and other sites like that and blogs, all on the same day. So the earliest, you could actually pinpoint when they came out. And there's no way that just a handful of people could do this. This would be, they would show up. You could automate it, but you'd have to have logins on hundreds of sites, and it would have to be something that gets.
Well, there's some conspiracy theory sites that actually do mimic one another deliberately because it's kind of a content farming thing.
I'm talking about things like forums.
Well, the other thing is
social networking sites.
There are some groups that do that. Any individual example, well, you have to demonstrate. But are you saying that they're posting the same article across all these websites?
Yeah, things like the letter from a Marine or something like that to somebody. Those types of things that are clearly shown to be posted very quickly. But they will. I'll look for the origins, and I did this many times, and so many times what would happen is all the hits would be for the same time frame. They would all be posted to hundreds of forums at the same time, around the same time, on the same day, and then they would propagate from there. So you'd have people sharing them all over the place after that. But you could backtrack to them showing up on the same day all over the internet.
Wow.
And that has to be somewhat of a not a conspiratorial effort, but it's clearly an effort. It's clearly an organized effort.
It's clearly the Men in Black working with the CIA to post misinformation to cover up the alien occupation.
I think a lot of it will be you know what? Honestly, I think a lot of it will be automated, and I think that a lot of it will be people basically reposting things that they see.
Well, it makes me think of, it makes me think of there's a
viral story.
Maybe, but there's a scam that has succeeded a few times where someone would post this company is going to do something awesome all over the places that they can find online enough on the day. Yeah, so they could. Yeah, so they can get a bunch of people to invest in a stock, like a penny stock, and bump up the value enough for them to make money, and then everyone else kind of loses money.
Yeah, so
there's automated ways of doing that. It's spam.
Essentially. I've seen that with Brzezinski stuff too. Yeah. You can hire someone to put out massive amounts of shit across social media and it all comes out very quickly.
Yeah.
All at once.
And it could be.
But the damage is usually done by then.
Yeah.
People share it believing it. They do, and they don't.
Oh, I get it all.
Yeah, that's why Snopes exists because people, they read something and if it's plausible, they'll. Especially if it hits an emotional note.
If it confirms what you already believe, you're more likely to run with it.
Or if it's close. Yeah.
I even do that all the time. Like when I repost something that's bullshit. Invariably, it's because it reaffirms something. Oh, I can totally see them doing that.
So one would hope that a politician would be immune to this. And would actually, one would hope that a politician, someone who has been voted into office, or someone who is supposedly better, responsible making decisions for the country, would not be reactionary based on this kind of stuff. Would go and say, well, is this true? And go find a committee or something like that to research it. But
it's still a colossal fucking waste of time, though.
That's true. That's true. And the average person can probably tell if something is really outlandishly crazy. So.
Oh, I don't know. Remember the death panels?
Yeah.
And there was nothing, absolutely nothing in that document that could ever be interpreted that way. But
So-
you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of people believed it.
Okay, so I'm going to change gears. Thanks. That was a really interesting discussion. I enjoyed it. But up next on Coast to Coast AM is Eve.
No, I'm not next.
Backwards.
Oh, then Barbara's next. Oh yeah, Barbara's going to talk about this wonderful bracelet that we should all buy.
Yeah. Remember when Power Balance was told that they couldn't
Oh, I've got one
advertise
somewhere.
pretty much
I have a
It's my
anything
hologram-based bracelet.
in Australia anymore?
Right.
Mine's a placebo band, so it's not really.
So
Yeah.
I'm not wearing it. This actually, what I'm talking about looks more like what I'm wearing, which is a Fitbit,
Yeah.
than a Power Balance. But it's a lot more like a Power Balance in that it is utter nonsense bullshit. And I was a little surprised to see this. I don't even remember how I stumbled on it, but somehow I stumbled on it. It's called
Yep.
Shark Bands.
Shark?
I have
Shark?
a picture of it. Yes,
Does it make you a shark or
picture of it.
there's
Yeah.
a surfer
It's
guy.
it's a surfer guy wearing
What?
it. And
He's not being attacked by a shark.
he's
Therefore,
not being
it's
attacked
weird.
by sharks because he's wearing
And
shark
the hand
band.
is not being attacked by land sharks either. So there you go.
And it's stylish. No, wait, it looks stupid. Sorry.
It's actually pretty
Really?
clunky, to be honest.
Yeah.
But if you go to the next slide, actually, there's
Okay.
pictures of the bands themselves.
Wow.
So they can be worn as a bracelet or around your ankle.
It's like a swatch without actually being able to tell time.
Yep. It's like a Fitbit, but instead of having a motion sensor on the inside, it just has this magnet.
That's just
I
a
bet
magnet.
if you wear it, you won't get caught up in a Sharknado.
I bet you that's
Um,
true. I bet you that's true. That's a really good point.
Yeah, it might
So-
lower your probability of that a little tiny bit.
I have to caveat here. I'm not an engineer and I'm not a marine biologist, so I'm not an expert here. But my
Come on.
meter just went way off the chart.
Well, don't sharks navigate by the Earth's magnetic
They
force
do
or something like that?
actually. Sharks have electro sensors. They have electroreceptors, so they do sense. They can sense magnetic fields. and so-
Sometimes they chew on transatlantic cable wires, I'm saying.
Yeah. No, they do. They do have electroreceptors, and there's lots of theories about what they're used for. They could be used to sense other creatures in the ocean, and they may use them to navigate because of the magnetic field. But that doesn't mean that I believe that these shark bands are worth $60 that they're charging for them. So
If it's just a huge
they
magnet.
work,
If
they're not
there's
worth
no
$60.
electronics and it's just a huge magnet, it doesn't make no.
Are
there's
you
no electronics.
sure that the shark bands refers to marine animals and not the people who are making this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think that these would repel those people, though.
Yeah.
That's true. This
So-
is the exact opposite of that.
I went to the website and I looked under technology, and it says uses magnets, no batteries, no electricity. So there's no moving parts in these things. It also said it was rated for 20 meters, and I kind of have to wonder what happens when you dive below 20 meters. I mean, does the magnet implode, or
Is
does it
it-
no longer work?
Is it rated 20 meters for the depth of
200
water?
Sorry, 200 meters. Yes.
200 meters, the depth of water, or is it 200 meters around you that the
No,
shark gets within
No,
that?
rated
rated
means down.
200 meters.
But if
so
there's no electronics, what difference? It's just a piece of plastic and a hunk of metal in it.
It's not even plastic, it's silicone, so it's rubber. For ages 5 and up, so apparently
That's good.
if you're 4,
So they can't choke on it.
except that choking usually refers to 3 and under 3, children under 3, choking hazards.
So
Not over
especially
3?
Stupid children?
So
So
you can
apparently
still use-
between
Let her finish.
if you are age 3 to 5, you're screwed. You're some shark's dinner.
That's
true.
because-
That's true.
The
And
reason
those are the
it's
tasty human hors d'oeuvres of sharks.
Yeah.
And
So so I have some questions about this. About I just have this weird feeling that just because sharks have an electrosensors or electroreceptors, that means that any electromagnetic emission at all, even coming from this tiny little magnet, can bother the shark. Because that's the whole point. So apparently,
do they actually say that it's because they have electrosensors?
Yes, it's because they have electroreception that they are repelled by this magnet. And let's not forget,
Citation needed.
the magnet is wrapped in rubber. Okay, I don't know about you, but I was always taught, it's encased in rubber. So I'm a little skeptical. But anyway, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you that what they say is their research or their evidence that it works is utter bullshit. Now that I can tell you about. So they keep referring to these videos that apparently show the tests that they've done, and I scoured the website and I found a lot of videos of interviews, like media interviews that the owners did, and there's like a promotional video, but then there's only one video that says see the sharks repelled by our technology. Yeah, I watched it. It's about 2 minutes long, and the voiceover claims that the voice that is doing the voiceover claims that they tied a bracelet to a buoy in order to be scientific, as well as safe before throwing it into the water with reef sharks. So they chum the water and then they drop this thing from a buoy. And then he put 2 shark bands on his ankles and he got into the water, which he claims induced this obvious repellent reactions when the sharks approached the bands on his feet. And finally, they decided to get more of the controlled type of testing by tying the bracelets around lead weights, which he claims produced a really astonishing repellent behavior.
I agree, but probably for different reasons.
Yeah.
Was it the sharks were repellent, or was it like smart people?
The sharks are apparently repellent, but the scientists are laughing because apparently these guys wanted to be scientific, and it really comes off as
they should
something that you just want to go there and pat them on the head and say, do you want to be a scientist when you grow up? And what's really bad about this is the voice on the video belongs to somebody named Dr. Patrick Rice, who is the senior marine biologist at Shark Defense, which is a different company that apparently works on shark repellents, and one of the things that they research is magnets. Now, in the explanation for why magnets would work on their website, there are a few citations, but if you look on the Shark Band's website, they say here's a list of the species of sharks that have been tested using our technology, and then they link to the Shark Defense website, and it's just a list. There's no information about it. There's no citations.
There's no links to papers or anything like that.
There's no links to papers. When you test something scientifically, you publish in a peer-reviewed academic
journal. You
journal.
Your data and your protocol so that everyone can reproduce it. Yeah.
Exactly. And they did none of that. They did cite, like I said, in the explanation page, about why it would work. They did cite a couple of papers about it. And they also showed a picture of the magnets that they tested. They're looking at these shark nets, or these fences, which are not much different than the types of nets that are used now. They have a slightly wider opening. It's not slightly, it's significantly, but it's not hugely different. And they're lined with these magnets, and the magnets that they show are huge in comparison. I mean, they're just huge. And I'm not convinced that they work, because they didn't really back that up much.
Yeah. The one thing I do understand about magnetism is that it is an effect that is very local.
Yeah.
Even on very powerful magnets, the effect is very, very local. So if this has any effect on sharks, it would have to be an effect that's very close to you.
Well, what they show in the
Which means
video.
they're already trying to bite you. Which.
Yeah, and they're trying to say that it repels the ones who are exploring you to see what you are before it bites you. So it has to get really close. And the video that they show. Can you play the video, because it's hilarious. There are so many explanations for what happened.
No sound, but
you don't need sound.
Okay.
Okay, so the sound. I mean, I told you already what.
This is an ad. 3, 2, 1. Skipping.
Oh, I wanted those people to get eaten by sharks.
Shark bands.
So they're basically.
Watch the action.
You see the three different tests. One where they drop it from a buoy. I don't know what the difference is between the first one and the last one. By the way, they still dropped it from a buoy. They just tied it to a lead weight in the second one. And the other one where he has his feet sticking in the water. But now you tell me where there's some amazing repellent behavior, because all I see are a very few select shots of sharks going up to the item and swimming away.
And there's a cut involved.
Yeah, even if there isn't, so what? The shark moves up to it, explores it, decides it doesn't want to eat it, and
Not a
swims
fish.
away. It also doesn't show. You can't see if maybe they're going after some other food. But they look at the camera. I mean, conceivably they would do this for hours on end, and yet this is all they've got is 2 minutes of it, and it's very select, and there's only a few little clips. I mean, there's nothing in here that convinces me.
It's not clear what's going on. I mean, they're throwing a buoy in there with a big magnet on it, and the shark swims away fast. It's actually a little. They literally tie the shark bands to it, and they have a couple of clips of sharks going up to it and then turning around. So what? There's so many explanations for what's happening. Like the shark swims up to it, realizes it's not food, and moves away. And then maybe 20 sharks did that, and one of them looked like it, or maybe it's the buoy. Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
what you would want to do, if you want to test this scientifically, is to do a double-blind, placebo-controlled study. In other words, you want to simulate the movement of a human being as much as possible. You want to stop chumming the water after you've introduced the treatment, the bracelet, okay? And most of all, you want to compare how the sharks respond to a bracelet with a magnet and a bracelet without a magnet, the thing that's supposed to repel them.
Yeah, I would like to see them.
You would want to have the people who are judging the behavior of the sharks not know which one has the magnet in it. Yeah. That would be scientific.
Yeah. At an absolute minimum, I would want them to see. I want to see a video exactly like that, without any edits, of them throwing that buoy in with a band that looks exactly the same, but it's just rubber with no magnet in it.
At the very least.
And see if the behavior changes.
And without those comparisons, all of these tests are worthless. And I'll tell you what else.
Tell us what you really think, Barb.
Yes.
These guys know that. They know it. This is a scam. This is fraud. There's no way that somebody gets through a program in marine biology or anything like that and gets a PhD and doesn't know how to do a decent basic scientific experiment that you learn as an undergrad. There's just no way. Or that they don't know how to publish a paper.
Yeah. Well,
maybe the shark ate their homework.
Eve, too soon.
What? Sharky for homework? Okay.
No, my feeling is that this is power balance scamminess. I totally agree with you. Yeah. It's gobbledygook. It's their primary ad seems to be, hey, look, sharks.
Yeah.
I mean,
look, I throw something at it and it swims away.
I mean, I don't know. There's also it also fills a largely imaginary need, as far as I can tell, because people are getting eaten by sharks. So it's preying on fears too.
Some are, but it's highly unlikely that, and all this is going to do is deter deter the ones that aren't likely to bite you anyway. They even say on their website, well, a great white, we can't stop a great white because that's not how great whites work. But
and shark attacks are actually a problem, like around Florida. There's an alert system of shark activity around Florida because it's that big of a problem. So. And
in Australia, and there's here too. There are problems here too, but it's still a statistically highly unlikely thing to happen.
Yeah.
It's like air travel, you know. Yeah. The idea that you're
that happens all the time. Air travel, every day.
Yeah. But you don't die doing it. And this is not doing anything, and there's absolutely no convincing evidence whatsoever, and yet this is scientific all over their website, and they're doing interviews on TV, and I can't believe that they're still allowed to do this in Australia, given how quickly...
Is this being marketed in America?
Yeah. Actually, they're a U.S. company. They're in New Jersey.
Yeah. So the claims that they're making, does this fall under
sure, but
regulation?
You know what it takes to get a company to stop making claims? I mean, this is just like any diet pill. You know, they'll advertise for a long time before anybody tells them to stop making those claims. Somebody's going to have to sue them, and right now they don't have the market. I mean, it's not like Power Balance.
So because it doesn't fall under medicine.
No, it's advertising. It's just false advertising. Somebody's going to have to sue them before they'll stop.
Yep.
And then they'll just hide their claim. They'll do what Power Balance does since the Australian incident, since they were sued in Australia, and that is they just won't they'll make more vague claims.
Yeah, they're betting that they can make enough money on the before they have to pay the lawyer fees.
Probably a good bet.
And then walk away, I guess. I don't know.
Except that the market isn't quite as big as it is for other.
I guess. Well, all they need is a successful viral marketing campaign online. That's the way it goes nowadays, right? Somebody gets a gimmick, and next thing you know, it's you're the next power band or I hate to say it, Under Armour. It was just, I mean, it's just another athletic clothing company now. The stuff is good, but still, part of their success is because they just became a name people know.
Yeah, well, they have a good name too.
Yeah, well, that's true. And yay, Baltimore! As I wear a UC baseball team cap. Thanks, Barb. That was very interesting and fun to talk about, which is what we're all about here on this show. Up next.
Yourself.
Well, okay, fine.
I'm about misery and pain.
How about you speak for yourself, because you're next, Steve.
Okay. Well, Scott, first of all, I just want to say ubiquitous. Secondly,
I hate you so much.
We all want to say ubiquitous.
Sky Living TV in Britain is currently airing a 3-part series called The Enfield Haunting, based on the book This House is Haunted. The true story of the Enfield poltergeist by Guy Lyon Playfair.
I used to live on an Enfield.
That's not the real name of the book, Eve. What are you trying to pull?
Lyon Playfair was one of the main investigators of the famous poltergeist case. And he also, by the way, co-wrote the book The Geller Effect with Uri Geller. So, totally reliable. Now, naturally, with this series coming out, there's been a flurry of renewed interest in the Enfield poltergeist. And in a time-honored tradition, the filming has been haunted. As far as I can tell, all films that have some sort of supernatural theme end up in either before or after getting associated with something supernatural. So, in this case, according to executive producer Jamie Campbell, quote, "Every time our photographer came on set, his camera broke.
Maybe you just have a shitty photographer, dude.
It annoyed him, but it terrified the rest of us."
Was it haunted by PR agents and producers?
Yeah.
And people who...
And, I'm sure... I don't believe this was filmed on site or anything. But anyway, it's obvious that only malevolent spirits could be the possible explanation. Oh my God, it's starting to storm. It must be ghosts. Anyway,
It is starting to storm here.
A dark and stormy night here.
Jeez.
Also, when actor Timothy Spall, who plays investigator Morris
Hope there's
Gross,
no sharks in that storm.
as far as we know, when
have
he
your
listened to recordings of spirits speaking through an 11-year-old girl, he said, "It frightened me to death." Ooh, big whoop.
How could she have said that?
The actor listening to the recordings.
Oh, it frightened him to death?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Who's a pity baby?
well, he might think it's creepy without actually thinking it's paranormal. And even if he does think it's paranormal, so what? Some actor got freaked out. Also, there's a huge amount of publicity over that Sky Living is doing with interviews with the actors and their opinions on ghosts and stuff. So, but of course, skeptic's gonna skeptic. In 2012, in response to news that a film, possibly referring to this series, possibly not, I'm not sure, but response to the news that a film was going to be made about the case, Joe Nickell wrote an article about the haunting in Skeptical Inquirer. Michael Hodges of Radio Times then recently asked Lyon Playfair about Nickell, and clearly appreciating and respecting another point of view, Lyon Playfair said, "Nickell can piss off. The man knows nothing. They are absolutely useless, these people. They are just expressing their own stupidity and laziness
These people.
in not doing proper research. These people. Don't you hate them? These people.
I hate those people.
Ooh, people, and these ones especially.
Yeah. While it's true that Nickell wasn't in London investigating this particular case in the 1970s, he is a professional investigator. And there were some skeptical investigators at the time. I'll get to them in a minute. But they weren't particularly welcomed by the family, so their investigations were briefer than the more believing investigators. So what was the Enfield poltergeist? Well, in 1977, the Hodgson family, mother Peggy, daughters Margaret, 13, Janet, 11, and sons Johnny, 10, and Billy, 7, were going through some difficult times. They had some financial difficulties. They lived in a council house in Enfield, North London. Peggy was a single mother after an acrimonious divorce, and from what I can tell, the father doesn't really seem to have been a part of the children's lives during the haunting. At least I haven't seen him mentioned at all. So one evening in August, 2 of the children claimed to hear noises and see furniture moving. At first, their mother didn't believe them, but then she witnessed the same thing. She ended up calling the police a few days later. And a police constable apparently saw a chair slide across the floor without, as far as she could tell, anything to explain its movement. But there was no crime, so she said she couldn't help them. So then Peggy called a reporter, and actually there were ultimately a lot of reporters involved, but one of them also called the Society for Psychical Research, who sent out investigators. And the main investigators were Morris Gross, who had become interested in the paranormal after his 22-year-old daughter Janet died, and Lyon Playfair. Now, among the alleged phenomena, and there's a bunch of phenomena, but there are various knocking noises, as in the case of the Fox sisters, who started the whole spiritualism movement in the 19th century. Small objects were thrown across the room. I believe a reporter was hit above the eye with a Lego. And large objects, like this chair that police saw moving across the floor and possibly floating. And strange noises. There was whistling and barking. and there are recordings of that, and eventually malevolent voices, and also levitation. Janet, the 11-year-old, was the main focus of the incidents, although her sister Margaret was also involved. And perhaps to a much lesser extent, the younger boy. It seems the older boy was away at school for much of the time. Now, it seems, as far as I can tell, that absolutely everybody admits there was at least some fakery. Gross and Lyon Playfair admitted this, as did Janet, who confessed that sometimes they'd fake things when nothing much was happening and they felt under pressure for things to happen. But despite this, Lyon Playfair said, "It did not bother us very much. We'd already seen incidents with our own eyes that the children could not possibly have done deliberately."
Oh, that sounds so much like Conan Doyle and the Cottingley Fairies. There's
I
no
know.
way.
Yeah.
I know. Oh,
Yeah.
it gets better, too. And yet, what did they see with their own eyes? And they did see things, but to some extent, they didn't see that much, because the poltergeist had a tendency not to act up when it, or, Janet, was being watched closely. As Droz said, it's smarter than we are. Look at its timing. The moment you go out of a room, something happens. You stay in the room for hours, nothing moves. It knows.
Who should I be choking? I want to choke someone. Who? Just give me a
It
target.
knows what we're up to.
Oh my God! They said that out loud?
Yeah.
Ooh, my iPad's floating.
As for specific phenomena, so first the levitation.
Whoa! What was
Now-
that? Sorry. go
Now, Ed Warren claimed that Janet was once levitated when she was sound asleep, and that the children were victims of demonic possession, because of course he did. That's what he said. That's his whole shtick,
Yep.
or was his
Yep.
whole shtick. Now, there is, however, photographic evidence of Janet's levitation. A photographer with a newspaper left a camera in the children's bedroom that would be automatically triggered or just continuously go off. And we have 3 slides from that series that we can look through.
Okay.
Bring them up. And we can sort of see what you think. There's one.
Ah!
Not quite levitating. I guess it's pulling her up at this point. So moving on.
I think she's just reacting to the picture of Captain Stubing's daughter on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
No?
Well,
Who's no? It's Starsky and Hutch on the other side. That we agree upon.
Yes.
That was. Yeah.
Starsky
David
and Hutch is
Bowie
definitely
there.
Yeah.
But
He's
where
happy.
do you see Jill Whalen?
Like in the middle of the back. Oh, I guess that's not her. That's something else. That's an older
It
woman.
doesn't look like her.
No.
Well, it has the kind of bowl cut.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
her
Well,
hair
that was pretty much
longer,
everyone in the 70s.
Yeah.
and she wasn't that old.
Oh
so
no!
Yeah.
You know,
that
yeah,
was
I
like
don't
the
think.
camel cut.
You know, I think that might be Joanna Lumley.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know Joanna Lumley if she stood up in my soup.
Whatever.
Okay. Is there a David
Um,
Cassidy? No.
I don't know.
Who's the guy above with the collar?
We have 2 more
whatever.
photos, so you can continue looking.
Okay. Okay. This the next one. Yep, she's definitely just reacting.
There
to
is
stuff.
no way that you could fake that.
Yeah. And then there's a final third one. In Joe Nichols' article, he has a drawing of one of these photographs and points out all the things that suggest that possibly she was actually just jumping off the bed, like the hair's going up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was, like a top athlete or something at her school, or
I don't think you need to be a top athlete to jump off the bed, but
No, I know.
She's skinny.
So it does appear that possibly, just possibly, she might have
Maybe.
been jumping on
Yeah.
the bed.
Oh, wait, isn't that the Bee Gees up there?
well, let me go back.
Quite possibly.
Sorry.
Let's see. Is
Isn't
that the
that-
Bee
yeah,
Gees?
Back in the corner up above her?
You can kind of see it better in this one. I don't
no.
think that's the Bee Gees. Is that?
No. That's the Osmonds.
Is it the
Oh
Osmonds?
dear.
Maybe.
That might be the Osmonds.
Yeah. But what's the book on the? I can't read what it says. The book on the mantle of the fireplace there. Is there a better image?
No idea.
Ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding. This is fun. Ding,
I like that, though. If you've noticed, like the
Yeah.
children in the other bed going,
Uh-huh. Don't land on me.
Don't land on me. Mom, she's doing it again.
yeah.
Make her stop.
I believe the other girl sometimes levitated too.
What?
What's the name? What's this girl's name again? The girl. who's in-
Janet Hodgson. Or that was her name at the time. She's married now. I don't remember what her name is.
How dare they change names?
Yeah. Deborah Hyde, editor-in-chief of the Skeptic magazine, the British Skeptic magazine, notes that in some cases the girls seem to have been primed. So once Gross said to the girls, all we need, because they had talked about these voices, he said, all we need now is for the voices to talk. And in very short order, they started talking. Graham Morris of the Daily Mirror, he's the one who set up the camera that caught the levitation. He told the girls that poltergeists often start fires, and again, shortly thereafter, small fires began breaking out in the Hodgson home. And about those voices that scared Timothy Spall to death, I've heard some of the recordings too, and it's obvious that they're coming from Janet, and again, to a lesser extent, the other girl. And no one seems to deny this. Everyone agrees they're produced by the vestibular folds or false vocal cords. Mm-hmm. And what you end up with, it sounds like a child talking like a monster, like, I am a monster, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Lyon Playfair said, he's just, Janet's lips hardly seem to be moving.
Mm.
And yet,
but they are moving.
Yes, lips that are hardly moving are in fact moving.
So he's actually complimenting her ventriloquism, complimenting her ability.
We'll get to that. He also interpreted errors as evidence of authenticity. This is just wonderful. He said the connection between Janet and the voice is capitalized, is obviously very close.
I've seen that show.
No kidding.
The guy from Maroon 5 is on it.
Yeah. There have
Got
been
all the
several,
tattoos. He's awesome. Okay.
There have been several occasions when she says something it obviously meant to say, and vice versa. Would she slip up like that? Wait, would she slip up like that if she were faking the whole thing?
Of
course not.
Yes.
Who's more likely to screw up? An 11-year-old girl play acting or a malevolent spirit? Is some monster likely to accidentally start talking like a 12-year-old girl? I'm going to kill your whole Excuse me. I'm going to kill your... You know. So
see, I think he missed an opportunity. See, he said at first that all we need is the spirits to talk, so they talked, and they usually light fires, so they started lighting fires. Yep. He should have said, well, you know, poltergeists usually deposit millions of dollars in my account. And there you go, and then he would have been rich and walked away from the whole. Never mind. Thanks, Bob, for that reaction there.
You know, there are also recordings of the barking. The barking actually sounds pretty convincing. It's a good bark. But, so Lyon Playfair and Gross believed the talking, the voice, couldn't be fake because she could just talk like that for hours and not get a sore throat. And he said it definitely... Now, mind you, this is how people do throat singing, and scream singing is through the false vocal cords. So people do use them for things. And he said it definitely wasn't ventriloquism. However, ventriloquist Ray Allen disagreed.
Oh.
And another SPR
Funny how
investigator.
experts disagree.
I know. Another SPR
You don't listen to
investigator.
those people.
Yeah.
These people.
Those people
Piss
again.
off. Another SPR investigator concluded that the case was overrated and ultimately pathetic. She found the girls'
Ultimately.
behavior suspicious and thought they'd staged at least quite a bit of the phenomena. Magician Milbourne Christopher briefly investigated the case and caught Janet in suspicious behavior. Lion Playfair says, it almost seemed like the poltergeist was out to incriminate her by producing third-rate phenomena.
Oh my God! I think we have a new winner for the Journal of Special Pleading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yes, definitely.
Producing
definitely.
third-rate phenomena
Oh
in the
my
presence of a first-rate observer. On another occasion, a video camera caught Janet bending spoons, which, Lion Playfair should know all about that because he wrote that book with Geller.
Yep.
There's several.
And so how can you channel Uri Geller without him actually being dead?
Yeah.
Well, we love Brian.
Yeah.
Please think of the children.
Now that there are several other claims of astonishing events that the girl supposedly could not possibly have faked,
Children don't do that
Materializing.
sort of thing, Eve.
huh?
Children are good. They're naturally good, and they don't embellish and lie. And
Right. Absolutely. Except when they did. Again, everyone admits they
Actually,
did.
I think if they didn't embellish and lie and did do what they're supposed to do, that would be the astonishing behavior.
it would actually.
So,
But anyway, the evidence for these other, astonishing reports of one of the girls going through a wall or dematerializing and being found later.
Oh my God! They got video of that?
No.
Damn.
As far as I know, they do not. So the evidence is just reports, and as Deborah Hyde points out, none of the observations was carried out under controlled conditions. Gross seems to have felt very protective of the family. That he felt he was there all the time, just about all the time, and they felt as if he were placing himself between the family and the poltergeist. And Lion Playfair seems that he couldn't believe that he could be hoaxed by little working-class girls. In 2012, Lion Playfair and a very nervous, awkward, and fragile-seeming Janet, as well as Deborah Hyde, appeared on a British television show. And Lion Playfair said on that, "If you think I could have been deceived by this clever little girl for 14 months, ... At which point, Hyde replies that Arthur Conan Doyle was deceived by clever little girls in the case of the Cottingley Fairies. But apparently that's different.
Well, I think that people, there's all this research about how difficult it is for people to admit that they're wrong, and that's one of the one of the most difficult
he's
things
up on
that
one
you
side
can
of
ever
the
admit.
pyramid.
But it pales in comparison to admitting that you were fooled.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to believe that they were fooled.
He
and
was also...
It's the ultimate embarrassment.
Yeah, he was also flogging his book to be made into a movie at the time.
Yeah.
Might
by the
have
way,
a few reasons to stick to it.
By the way, Hyde, who is also a makeup effects coordinator in the film industry, saw the first installment of the Enfield Haunting and enjoyed it very much, as long as you don't take it too seriously. However, if you can't get enough of the Enfield Poltergeist, you'll be pleased to know that apparently the sequel to The Conjuring, based on the investigations of Ed and Lorraine Warren, is apparently going to be titled The Enfield Poltergeist. And I'm sure it will be just completely accurate.
Should be, yeah.
Yeah.
And Nathan has chimed in. Journal of, I don't know if he's going to post on Journal of Special Pleading, but he did post the link to
Excellent.
that, so I'm sure it'll end up on that blog as well. Thanks, Eve. We're running late, but I have one little thing.
When are we not running late?
Always. It is the thing we do. We run late. I've got one thing to share with our wonderful viewers that you should be afraid of, at least if you're in Nevada. Apparently, there's a company called Freightliner, which makes great big-ass trucks. And that's actually the designation. They're called big-ass trucks. No, I'm kidding. It's a subsidiary of Daimler, which used to be part of Chrysler. I don't really know how they delineate these car companies. It's a Detroit car company. But they make great big 18-wheel trucks that are used to ship stuff all over the country. But apparently they've come out with one, they announced this week, called the Inspiration Truck. I'm going to play a little video.
Oh, you have video. I haven't seen video.
Yes. This is their promo video of the Inspiration Truck. This thing is a self-driving tractor trailer. It has a system very similar to what's in the Google cars. It has, radar and laser tracking, and can pretty much follow a well-maintained, that's their words, well-maintained highway, but is designed to alert the driver that's required to do like secondary roads, or if there's any kind of weird conditions, to be there to intervene if the truck can't handle it. But apparently, if it's on a well-maintained highway, it can drive itself, and their claim is that the driver doesn't have to pay attention. So the driver could be, reading a book or playing
Asleep.
Angry Birds or whatever, texting, tweeting, watching our show. Probably not. So right now, it's only licensed in Nevada, which is one of the very few. There's only like 4 states in the United States that self-driving vehicles are legal, and I think they have to be given permits. Nevada has already given them a permit, so this vehicle will be deployed as soon as, there's no date I have right now, but soon it will be trucking around Nevada on the highway. Hopefully not with a great big goblin face on the front. They claim...
You still have to have the puffy hat and stupid beard?
I think that's a requirement to be a truck. No. This vehicle is rated at Autonomy Level 3. Now, let me explain what Autonomy Level 3 is. They actually have these autonomy levels.
I just encountered these for the first time today.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to describe them all, but I'm going to start with level 0 is the obvious one, where the driver is actually in control of the vehicle. Blah, blah, blah. That's autonomy level 0. Not even cruise control. Level 3, the vehicle at this level of automation enable the driver to cede full control of all safety critical functions under certain traffic and environmental conditions, and in those conditions to rely heavily on the vehicle to watch for changes in those conditions that blah 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 blah. Okay, the point is it can drive itself under certain conditions, and it will make sure that you're alerted if there's anything it has to deal with. So but you can rely on it to be safe. There you go. Level 4 is closer to what the Google driving cars are like, and that is it actually deals with everything. It doesn't actually need human interaction except for in extreme cases. I think this is terrifying, but it's highways are pretty predictable environments, and pretty much you can tell if something's in front of you, you should slow down. I don't know how it's going to work because trucks require a lot of gearing because they're heavy. I'm assuming they'll have some kind of automated gearing system for it. It does have...
Can't you have an automatic transmission for a big, huge truck?
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. Bam. Next.
There you go. I don't know. I've never driven a truck.
Bob solved it.
Thanks.
There you go.
Anybody else have any
I
other
was
engineering
assuming
problems?
my point was that it must have something like that because it's not going to ask you to shift gears. There's a lot of press going out for this. There's supposed to be a lot of hype about it, but not a huge lot of details. I don't know who they're selling this to. but I'm sure that someone's going to be interested. It just seems to me like truck drivers are so expensive, and they make so many mistakes. I guess that's the problem, is that humans make mistakes. But I didn't realize
And
it was
robots
nothing.
They also have to take bathroom breaks and sleep
Yeah.
and all
Well,
of that.
I don't think it's going to eliminate that, because it's still
No,
up to the
it won't
driver.
eliminate. It won't eliminate sleep, but
Yeah. But and you're not supposed to sleep while you're driving. That's one of the things, is because you're supposed to be able to react to
yeah.
notifications.
But you might be able to take a bathroom break.
Do they have bathrooms in tractor trailers?
They can
No,
put
they're
them in
just gonna
there
put a
pretty
toilet.
easily.
I guess you could,
They don't take up that much room.
I guess they have water bottles.
And I'm sure that a lot of cabs, I'm sure that some cabs probably do have them. Because they sleep in there, and you know.
Yeah. So I mean, most of the technology for this is already pretty much out there. It's just the big deal is that this is legal in one state in the United States now, and it's going to be deployed. So watch out for them. They are actually fancy looking. They have if you I'll put a picture, because there's a picture I'll link to.
I'm getting increasingly comfortable with the idea of self-driving cars, even though it seems like spooky and weird. I'm honestly.
I mean,
I'm
people
a
are.
little more comfortable with it than I used to be, but
Yeah.
it does make me nervous.
I mean, I think the real payoff will be down the line when the systems are developed and cars are communicating with each other. And
Yeah, I think that at least in the near term, if we get these things out there, they tend to drive like really conservative humans.
Yeah.
Which means they're generally safer than humans. And the only problem I could see is that people riding in them are going to possibly get annoyed if they're used to going faster and being more aggressive on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, as a cyclist, I'm all for this.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be killed, not in the near term, by a robotic car. Maybe after they revolt, I will be killed.
Then it'll be
maybe
killdozer.
once they decide to target you.
Yes. But in the near term, while they're incognito, while they're pretending to like us, I will not be killed by an automatic car. So there you go. That's it for this week as far as the robot stuff. We're way over time. As far as trivia, did anyone catch if anyone got the trivia?
Yes, I was not as good as Tim at checking everything. But so what I saw was that Alex Murdoch got
Yeah,
it.
that was like right soon after you. Actually, I think it's before you're even posted the question went out on Twitter. Yeah. The question was on May 6th today, in 1983, famous hoax was exposed, and that was the Hitler Diary hoax. Which do you know any details about that? I'm just reading this. So.
Yeah, it had only been like a couple weeks earlier that Stern magazine had announced that they'd spent a large amount of money on these diaries, and some theoretically quite respectable scholars had oh, that's real. But immediately there were questions, but yeah, so they were.
Was anyone named Simcha involved?
Yeah, no.
Don't think so.
They were fairly transparent forgeries. Like the paper wasn't right, the ink wasn't right, and
it was printed up on a dot matrix printer.
Yeah.
Well, things like a lot of it was quotes from his speeches, plus like Ava and I threw a ball for the dog, or what personal stuff. So made up personal stuff.
Yep. Okay. Well, congratulations, Alex Murdoch. Was it Alex? Yes,
yeah.
It's Alex.
Right.
He also is the only one who got half of the monitors behind me. And yes, on my right, I think it's your left, I don't know, whatever you're seeing, the one that's like white with kids on it right now, that is the trailer for the movie AI, which a Spielberg movie. It's very long and quite sad for some people. Not a bad movie, very kind of pretty, futuristic kind of thing, but very sad.
Is it sappy and sentimental?
It is a little sappy.
sentimental.
Yeah.
So defy the laws of thermodynamics.
Okay.
Yes,
Mhm.
it does.
Okay, so it has a robot kid that makes you cry in it. This other one on the side here is a new movie called Ex Machina, which just came out, I think. I haven't seen it yet. It's another AI type movie that's supposed to be creepy and maybe horrific. I don't know, but I'm going to see it because it has robots and smart machines in it, which I think is awesome. And Queen Amidala, which, I'll see anything that's got her in it. And I'm not even going to explain that. Announcements. Will we get books together? Do we have announcements? We had an announcement, but I forgot what it was.
Skepticality.
10th
yeah.
anniversary is
10th
tomorrow.
anniversary is tomorrow.
Yep, so tomorrow is Skepticality's 10th anniversary. Apparently they're supposed to do something special. I don't know anything about it. So
Yeah, not tomorrow, though.
Yeah, not tomorrow, but soon. 10th anniversary Skepticality. That's pretty cool. Any other announcements?
Congratulations, Derek and Swoopy.
Yay!
Congratulations, Derek and Swoopy. Any other announcements? Anything? Where's Tim? Tim's on the West Coast?
He's at Rift Tracks.
No, but isn't he have a thing coming up? Or
Yes,
did he do his thing?
he's doing a thing.
He's doing a thing, at the thing on the other thing. At the place, with the people and the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got. Book time. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Go! Go, Barbara.
Mr. and Mrs. Earl J. Dunn of Minneapolis were visiting the Canyon area on Sunday, July 13, 1924. He was aged 24, and she was the former Miss Louisville. Was 29. At 3:30, after obtaining a grand view of the canyon at Grandview, the pair returned to their Ford coupe and started it up. They were parked at a spot about 50 feet north of Grandview, and there Mr. Dunn apparently had some difficulty turning the car around. Disaster struck in an instant. Mrs. Dunn must have screamed as she realized that he backed them off the edge of the canyon and they were falling vertically. The car fell 100 feet and bounced mercilessly for another nearly vertical 100 feet, finally lodging at the foot of a ledge. The two bodies continued downward, rolling and bouncing off numerous pinnacles and rock outcrops and landing some 800 feet below Grandview and 200 feet from the river. Mr. and Mrs. Dunn were mangled and broken and quite dead.
Ouch. Eve, go.
Revealingly, magician Milburn Christopher had a chance to become involved in the case. He regarded the Enfield poltergeist as one of the most intriguing occurrences of reputed paranormal phenomena he was ever involved in. Christopher stated, "I was there when the strange things started happening in this little suburban section of London. It was one of the few alleged poltergeist cases in which I was involved where the strange things happened when I was in the house. Normally when I go to a poltergeist house, the haunting influences disappear immediately. But there I had a chance to observe the technique." Christopher concluded they were the hijinks of, quote, "a little girl who wanted to cause trouble and who is very, very clever."
Those wacky hijinks. I think it was the guy who owns the water slide. Go, Bob.
Okay, the pressure inside a container of gas is created by the gas molecules colliding and bouncing off the walls of the container. The pressure is experienced not only by the walls of the container, but any object inside the container due to collisions from the gas molecules. If there's a hole in the wall and a gas molecule happens to be traveling in the direction of the hole, it will go through the hole and escape from the container instead of bouncing back inside. That's all I got.
Those darn holes.
Obvious, I know.
If you have any idea when batteries were invented, you probably think it was 1800 by Italian Alessandro Volta, where the word volt comes from. His was an improvement on a fellow Italian Luigi Galvani's battery-type invention that involved attaching metal to a dead frog's leg, establishing the historical animosity between experimental scientists and frogs. Alessandro Volta, on the other hand, replaced frogs with cardboard soaked in salt water, producing what was thought to be the world's first battery. Actually, the battery was invented around 200 BC. And it goes on from there. I'm not going to read all that, so there you go.
Was it in Baghdad?
Curious.
What?
Nothing.
No. It's a longer than I expected. So, Barbara, what's your book?
Well, I've actually read from this book a few times on the show already, but since I'm rereading it again, I thought it would. Death in Yellowstone by Lee Whittlesey.
Whittlesey.
Accidents and Foolhardiness in the First National Park.
How dare they? Eve, what's your book?
The Science of Ghosts by Joe Nickell, which, if I put it up close enough, you'll see, is the world's only professional paranormal investigator.
I've met him. These people.
Sorry.
He also has a really good book on making cocktails on mixology, which you should probably check out too. Bob.
I was reading from Barry B. Lukwalala, his Exploring Science Through Science.
Just add an extra la-la to the end of that.
Look at his name. It doesn't make sense. It's Haleakala.
It's out of focus, too.
Haleakala.
Haleakala, Batman.
Holy Haleakala. Mine, because I like these wacky things I pick up in various places. This is the D textbook by Cracked. There you go. The authors of the New York Times bestseller "You Might Be a Zombie and Other Bad News," which I don't have that book, but I'm definitely going to go buy it. So there you go. It's got all kinds of things you were taught in school and or that you might know that is actually wrong, and it's kind of neat in that respect. And it's actually well annotated as well. So there you go. Go check that out if you're interested in that kind of weird stuff. Is that the show? That's the show. Thank you all thank you everyone. Thank you for watching and enjoying our ranting and silly jokes.
And now our what is the word? Our finale number.
Our finale number?
Take it away, Bob.
Yes, go ahead, Bob. You start.
That's not how we practiced.
Just
end the damn show.
Just remember,
back away slowly, everyone.
Seaman.
Yes. Bull semen. Yes, back away, everyone. I'm going to start the music.
Oh, Barb, you missed the bull semen last week. There was
That's
a
true.
lot of bull semen.
She missed the bull semen. Virtual Skeptics is an independent production of What'sTheHarm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Musicant and used with permission. No bulls were harmed in the making of this episode.
In fact, they were pretty happy.
So I'm